And then she had come back to me after the first week and was like, that took me like 30 minutes. And I was like, what? It took you 30? That was like the one task I gave her for the whole first week. And she was like, yeah. And I was like, that literally took me weeks to even like, that would have taken me weeks to do. And she was like, but you have to remember, Monica, she's like, this is my job. A whole job is to like do this task for you. And if I'm just sitting down and can just concentrate on just doing this one task for you, she's like, I just crank it out. It's like, and so I was like, I actually had to go back and think of more things to add to her list. And then the following week, still the same kind of thing where she'd be like, I still have a little bit more time. Like, you still have not used up all your time. And I'm like, okay, cool. Well, then let me throw in this. And then as time went on, like, I started to become a little more comfortable with gauging how much, time each task takes. But I remember at the beginning being like so shocked that it took such little time to do something that took me weeks to get done.
If you are a busy leader, especially if you're the kind of leader who is a founder, a co-founder, a director, somebody who started something and cares deeply about it and believes that what you do is very important, this is for you. It's a conversation with Monica Peterson, who is a leader in my community and also a client of Dream Support. And we're going to be talking about delegation a little bit and trusting others with your vision. So I hope you enjoy. Well, why don't we do this, Monica? Why don't you kind of start with an intro of the organization and what you're about, and then we'll kind of go from there.
Yeah, sure. So we have a few companies. Kind of our initial baby was Inclusion Learning Center. So Inclusion Learning Center is an inclusive preschool. And it was myself, a school psychologist, and a speech therapist that sort of came together with this idea to build a school that would have sort of embedded supports for all of the areas of development that a child might need. And so we would be thinking about, their communication needs, their behavioral needs and social emotional needs, as well as their academic needs. And so I represent kind of the academic teaching background, and then another partner represents like behavioral, social emotional background, and then our speech therapist represents that communication background. So kind of together, we wanted to build this sort of hub for families and children. And then kind of through that, we discovered that we actually needed to, because of some logistical things, form some other organizations that would supplement the hub or that original idea of a school. And so we created Inclusion Learning Services. And so our services houses all of our kind of wraparound services that we provide. So we provide speech therapy, psychological services, academic services, and early intervention. So we sort of provide those services at the school. So they're two separate entities. And then kind of as things are going, we were like, actually, because of insurance purposes, we needed to separate even more. So yeah, so we've got kind of layers of companies now, which sort of happened by accident. But essentially, we're in the business to serve children and families kind of in all their areas of need and provide that one-stop shop of support.
How many families or clients might you guys be serving?
So we've grown tremendously. We're now at about 200 and more, actually. We're definitely in the 200s and continue to grow, which is exciting and also shows that there's a huge demand for these types of services and supports in our area. So yeah, we're even starting to branch out beyond Fresno County. We're now in Tulare County, and we've got clients in now up to Madera. So we're kind of, in Sanger as well, Reedley. So we're kind of expanding out our services, our service area as well.
Wow. So with that, with a volume, an increased volume of people that you're serving, comes an increased volume of people that you need to facilitate those services, right? So you've probably been bringing people on. How's that been going?
Yeah, good. So it's sort of, we were told by some of our referral sources that however many people you bring on, we have families waiting for services. So
Wow.
however many people you can bring on, we have people, or we have families and children that need the support. So we really can't seem to be hiring fast enough. It's more of like a capacity issue for our administrative team, just to like make sure that we have the capacity to like provide those onboarding trainings and the support that our new staff members need. So it's more of, as we build the capacity within ourselves, then we're able to hire more people, and we're able to get out more, have more impact, wider impact on the community that obviously needs our support.
So, what kinds of people are you hiring for these kinds of things? Their specialties in these different areas that you guys are covering. So, what certifications or what sort of things do they need to have for you to be able to utilize them?
Yeah, so it depends on, because we have such a wide variety of services. It sort of depends. So we have anywhere from academic tutors that we hire that need to have some type of background in education and working with children, to early interventionists who need to have a child development degree, to our preschool teachers who need to have specific child development units, all the way to our speech therapists who need to have like a master's and a licensure to be able to do speech therapy. So we kind of have a wide range. We have everywhere from, very entry level type of positions to like requiring licenses and credentials and things like that. So yeah, but all kind of related to children and development and honing in on those communication and social needs. So yeah, it's exciting. It's an exciting time.
A part of that is having so much stuff that needs to be organized, having so many things that need to be taken care of administratively. And that's why we started having a conversation. So somebody referred you to us, and we had a conversation. And you're like, I need help. Tell me about tell me about.
So I want to say, I was trying to think the other day when I started with you guys, but it was at a critical point in time where we were ramping up with hiring a lot more staff. We were bringing on a lot more like referrals. Just a lot of stuff was happening, and it must have been a sign, because I had a referral, and then I was like, hey, let me just reach out to see what this is about. So I know you and I had that initial call, and I was like, I am nervous. Like, I'm nervous about this, because at that point, I think we were only about 6 months in to like when we had taken our very first referral to like
Uh,
when I had started that conversation with you. It was only about 6 months in,
yeah.
but I was like, I'm gonna die at that point. So yeah, I feel like it was like that critical period where it was like, okay, we I'm really overwhelmed. We're getting a ton more staff, a ton more clients that are coming in, and it's like, what I can either, like, this is not sustainable. Whatever, was happening at that point was not a plausible business model to
Right.
to be able to impact the community in the way that we wanted to. And then since then, we've over doubled, probably tripled the amount of clients and referrals we've been able to take since then. So obviously it's helped tremendously.
And for a variety of reasons, those have
Mhm.
happened, not just because you have an assistant, but the assistant helps manage that flow, right? So tell me about what you have her doing for you.
Yeah, so I actually have two assistants now, but the first one, Alicia, who's amazing. So she started off kind of being just like my right hand person. I didn't actually know what to expect. I didn't know how much was too much. I didn't know how much time, when you have to quantify how much time it takes to do these things, it's hard to gauge. So I remember telling her in the beginning, like, you're gonna have to check in with me every week and tell me like how much time that took, because I'm either way over estimating or way underestimating, but just let me know, kind of check in. Did it feel like too much? If I have to scale back, I can. And so she started doing a lot of just like really tedious paperwork type of things that I had put off for weeks. And it just was like little reimbursement type of documentations that I needed. And it just to sit down and do it, you had, like, save each PDF and, get an e-signature for each one, which is very tedious tasks. And so I had her doing a lot of that type of work. And then she had come back to me after the first week and was like, "That took me like 30 minutes." And I was like, "What? It took you 30?" That was like the one task I gave her for the whole first week. And she was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Uh, that literally took me weeks to even like that would have taken me weeks to do." And she was like, "But you have to remember, Monica," she's like, "this is my job, a whole job is to like do this task for you. And if
Mm.
I'm just sitting down and can just concentrate on just doing this one task for you," she's like, I just crank it out. It's like, and so I was like, I actually had to go back and think of more things to add to her list. And then the following week, still the same kind of thing where she'd be like, "I still have a little bit more time. Like, you still have not used up all your time." And I'm like, "Okay, cool. Well, then let me throw in this." And then as time went on, like, I started to become a little bit more comfortable with gauging how much, time each task takes. But I remember at the beginning being like so shocked that it took such little time to do something that took me weeks to get done.
That is so common. The issue is that these tasks feel bigger
Yeah.
to leaders because they hate them. It feels so big, and so it becomes a mental block.
Yeah.
It's just the thing that's in the way of
Yeah.
getting real things done, the things that you really want to do. So when you find out that somebody else can do them much more efficiently without a hindrance or without hating it, a lot of them actually these tedious tasks. You're like, what is wrong with you?
Yeah.
However, you're also like, well, that's amazing that you
That's,
exist and that
yeah.
there are people like you. Thank you.
Right. Take
Very common revelation I think that people have once they start working with someone like that. So that's
Yeah.
awesome.
Yeah. And now she's been doing like now that we've kind of gotten into groove, she has taken off some like very consistent like monthly or weekly things that I was doing just as a routine thing, but now I'm able to offload it onto her and don't even have to think about it. It's very like automized now. She has a form she sends out a certain amount at a certain time in the month, and she gets that information back. She puts it in a spreadsheet. Like it all flows very nicely now. But I remember in the beginning, like, oh, we need more stuff.
That's awesome. Have you had any other sort of roadblocks, revelations along the way that maybe will be helpful to others?
Well, I think that some revelations just I so you had said earlier like it wasn't just because of the assistant that we've had that business growth, but I think that it's like a mindset that is like investing in ourselves as human beings, right? And
Mhm.
so I feel like just in doing that, kind of the first step to starting to practice healthier boundaries and healthier like practices as a business owner. So, you know, valuing my time was a really big one. I know that as I think a lot of women and moms do this, but we feel like we have to do everything. And
Yep.
so just I feel like the practice of like offloading has been helpful for me just in general. And then feeling guilty about like I wanna be able to walk my kids to school, and I wanna be able to, go to their soccer practices and, have dinner with them every night and not have to, stress about all these other things. So it was kind of just like, I think just like a overall, like, shift in my mindset around my businesses and kind of how they fit into my life instead of the other way around. That was a
Yeah,
revelation for me.
that's great. And the very same sorts of desires exist from fractional remote EAs. Like they want that same sort of flexibility in their schedule and the ability to, drop off or pick up the kids, or the ability to have a little more control over their schedule, which is why they're choosing not to work full time in person somewhere and
Mhm.
have made the life choice that they're making to do the kind of work they're doing. You mentioned earlier that you have two assistants. Tell us about the second one.
Yeah, so just in conversation with you, conversation with my one assistant that I had at the time, and then just the needs of our business, we kind of were like, you know what? We really want to be, we feel like there's an area that we weren't really doing much with. Like we were a nonprofit, or one of our businesses was a nonprofit, but we weren't really taking advantage of that nonprofit status as much as we maybe could. Like, and Alicia, my current assistant, was like, I can try, but that's not really like my wheelhouse, you know? So I, it might be nice to have a person that's really just designated to that one really important, in my opinion. I was like, that's going to be such a return on that investment, having something actively looking for grants and applying for grants. That'll in turn come back around, in the form of grant fund. And so we decided to have a person just specifically focus on that. My second assistant is, her sole purpose and with me is to be kind of scouring the internet for grants that are applicable to the work that we do. So she'll come to me with a new, proposal, and she'll be like, "This is all the specs. What do you think? With all the details of it, is this something you want to go for? Here's the deadline." And then she kind of puts her 2 cents in, like, "I really think that we'd have a good shot at this," or "I'm not sure because there's a lot of competition for this one," or whatever. And then I'm like, "Yeah, green light." And then I give her the green light and she just goes with it. That's been really great, actually. So we've applied for some really big grants, and then she's been working on some smaller grants as well. So yeah, so that's what she's doing. And then my other assistant is sort of like, as things come up, some of those more day-to-day routine things, then she'll handle those. And there's been some instances where they've had to overlap conversation a little bit, and, get information from each other, which is great. So yeah, I feel like we're building a little team, which feels good.
Yeah, I remember when I finally got my own assistant. If I remember that feeling, because I was
Mhm.
doing all the things myself and creating all the processes and managing all the processes and all these things. And I was like, I've got to get myself an assistant. And when that happened, it unlocked a
Yeah.
lot of opportunity and potential, for them and for me, to go further faster with somebody else by my side. So it's a huge, huge unlock. I believe that's why we do this. If someone were to be thinking, I don't know, I kind of like to hold on. I kind of like to be the one doing
Oh,
everything. Like,
the
what would
control.
you say to them?
Yeah, I mean, that was an issue for me too, actually. I think that we just like to do it all, and if I can do it, I can probably just do it faster instead of explaining to somebody how we're gonna do it. I just want the control to be able to do it all myself. I had a hard time with releasing control of all the tasks and all the little things. Um, I think that it's really just changing what you have control over and what you have the capacity to have control over. So I still feel like I have such a handle of our businesses, but instead of having control over like these mundane little things that happen every day,
Mhm.
I have even bigger impact and influence on like the decisions that really matter. So I feel like I'm now able to like do these appearances or like go to these places and like build the business in a way that I wasn't able to before. So I feel like you're not really losing control of your business. You're actually like, and I would say increasing the width or the wider swath of impact that you do have over your business. And then you're just releasing the control of the little tiny things that at the end of the day,
Right.
you don't have to do yourself. So I think
Yeah.
that was
But
helpful
it's
to think
kind of like
about.
it's kind of, you get to manage the big rocks and they can fill in with the sand. If you
Yeah,
put pieces in a glass, if it's the totality of your organization, the big rocks is what you want to manage. Let them pour the sand in. Get
yeah,
all the details going,
yeah, that's
fill
a
in
good
the
analogy.
cracks. Yeah, I think that's a big thing. A lot of people struggle with the idea of control. And you said, there's this idea I could do it faster myself. It's going to take so much time to train them. But then at the same time, she comes along and does this project that it's going to take you weeks to do, and she does it in 30 minutes. Oh, okay. So it might take me a little bit of time the first time to
Mhm.
train them on it or to show them what I need specifically. But then it's just like off my shoulders,
Yeah,
and I don't
yeah.
have to do that.
And that for Kaylee, our grant writer, the first grant that we did took some time. I'll be transparent about the fact in the beginning, like when you're first working on an initial project, I mean, if you want it done well as a business owner, you're going to have to walk them through that pretty detailed. And so we did our first grant together, and there was a lot of questions, very basic questions. But now that she's working on another one, like, she doesn't have to ask me anything. She already knows, she has all the information she needs. We've walked through it together. She knows where my preferences are, what my interests are. And so she's able to just do that now without asking. There is a time
Right.
investment up front. It pays off in the end. I mean, it has for me anyway.
For sure. I always tell people, like, if you can walk someone through on a screen share something and have it recorded, then they can have access to the recording. So if they need to go back and reference it or whatever, they don't have to keep asking you for the same stuff. They can be like, I'm going to go back and look. Oh yeah, that's right. That's what we're doing.
Yeah.
Because it's a lot. It's like drinking from a fire hose for
Yeah.
people in the beginning, right? So the retention of information can only be so much, and they have to take notes and they have to have access to ways to review that information periodically. Well, this has been really good. I really appreciate you taking the time to talk with me. I hope that it's helpful for other people who have a mission, who believe in what they're doing, that want to grow, and maybe they're just a little bit scared to
Mhm.
maybe jump forward and get themselves an assistant. And hopefully your story inspires them to do that.
Yeah, I would say starting small. I think that it's a good idea to start small. I know that you offer like that 5-hour package, and I felt like at the beginning, like, that's perfect. That's a perfect amount of time. And actually, we had lots of time to do lots of different tasks and projects, and then added on a second assistant, after we felt like, okay, now we're afloat. I feel good now. Now we can kind of start to think about these other things that, we're not in survival mode anymore. Now we just want to move forward. So I think, if anyone's hesitating, maybe just start small with, what you can afford and go from there.
Absolutely. That is absolutely my recommendation for people, you know. And it's amazing actually what you can do with 5 hours a week. It really is.
Yeah.
It's
I
crazy.
spend 5 hours just stressing every week. And, I'm like, what? You just did all that in 5 hours? Yeah, so I agree.
Awesome. Well, thanks again so much for being a part of this. And I really appreciate you as a client and hope that we get to work together for a long time.
Yeah. Thanks, Micah. Thanks for having me.
Well, I hope that conversation was helpful to you. And if you are curious about getting your own executive assistant, I would love to help you with that pursuit. Just go to dreamsupport.club and you can find a contact form to fill out and we can start a conversation. God bless. See you next time.